So in Matthew chapter 24, Jesus was with his followers and they asked him, what will be the sign of the end of the age? He turns and he looks at them and he says, there will be wars. There will be rumors of wars. Nation will rise against nation and people will begin to hate each other. There will be famines. And then he says this in verse 8. All of these are the beginning of birth pains. You see, Jesus was telling them basically, my return will not come until there have been wars and nations rising against nations and kingdoms rising against kingdoms. Well, that's happened. The Crusades, kingdom rising against kingdom. World War I, World War II, Vietnam. Nation rising against nation. And even today, wars and nations are clashing. So that has already happened. So what is the next thing that he says must happen before he returns? Well, you will be handed over and persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. Well, check that off the list. That has already happened too. It happened to the disciples. They were killed for their faith. And even today, believers all over the world are being killed because of their faith. We've experienced the wars. Okay, we've had the wars. We have seen believers killed for their faith. And so the final thing that is to happen is right here. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. And that's it. He says his return doesn't happen just after there have been wars and earthquakes, when every nation has heard the gospel of the kingdom. Now I want to show you something here. When you look at the word for nations, it is the Greek word ethnos. And in the Greek, you will see that in the Bible, that word ethnos primarily refers to Gentiles. And Gentiles refers to non-Jewish nations. You see, when Jesus was on the earth talking to his 12 disciples, only the Jewish people in Israel knew about him. But he wanted them to know that he wouldn't return until every nation, even those who aren't Jewish nations, has heard about his message. Fast forward nearly 2,000 years, and what has happened? Exactly what he said would happen. Jesus did not fade away in history. The writings of his disciples, they didn't disappear. And we now live in a world where just about every nation knows who Jesus is. That he is a king, and that he has a kingdom, and that he will return. Now, that was one of the last things Jesus said would happen before he returns. He said that there would be wars, there would be a lot of hate. And then he said that when every nation has heard the good news of the kingdom, then I am going to return. And so when you talk to your atheist friends and they say, why hasn't your Jesus returned yet? You look at them and you say, because the Bible clearly says that first every nation must know about him. And they will have to admit that they do know. They know that Jesus is the King of Kings. They know that he died on the cross. They know how only through him can you inherit the kingdom. So even those who deny him and hate him cannot deny the fact that just as the Bible predicted, the world knows about him. We are living in the fulfillment of what he said would happen. We have had the wars. And now for the first time in history, just about every nation knows who he is. In fact, with YouTube, just this video alone is reaching every nation. Think about that. You see, Satan thought that YouTube would be a tool to spread hate. And yeah, that's happened. But God has flipped it and used YouTube as a tool to spread the kingdom. In these last days, it has become one of the #1 tools that is reaching every nation with gospel-centered teaching explaining the kingdom of God. Remember, Jesus never said that every person would hear his message. What he said was every nation would hear. And in this generation, God has allowed technology to advance for the purpose of doing what the people in Jesus' day would have thought impossible, and that is reach every nation with God's kingdom in a single day. Jesus said it. The last thing that would happen is that the world would hear the gospel. And we're there. We are getting there, if we're not already there. If you have found yourself somehow watching this video, it's not coincidence. The gospel is reaching the world. Spread this message wherever you can. Spread the gospel.